Healing trauma on the twin flame journey is almost for everybody a topic. And we need to be very sensitive in and around this topic because it's real. People have true childhood trauma that deeply hurt their heart. And they're sometimes really, it's really impossible for them to open their heart again after this incredible, debilitating things that have been said to them and done to them before they could even talk, or starting in that phase, or later on, or when you were an adult with love relationships that maybe were narcissistic or some other thing. I don't know what. Trauma means that you have like a fossilized pattern in your mind and brain and energy system and your psychology and everything, actually, that is like held together tightly. And it doesn't open. And it prevents you from truly, like passing on that deep divine love into life in a correct way, in a sane way, in a healthy way. You're not funneling that through correct actions, and it's just like a sort of a disconnect because this pattern is like standing there in between, or I don't know how, like malforming your influence of the divine if it lets it through at all. And that just has such an influence on your life. It can be very debilitating in your entire functioning, right? And trauma is not only when you had like huge, immense happenings all at once only. It can be trauma from something that happened over time continuously to you, and that fossilized certain patterns in you that were maladaptive, that are not healthy, right? And it says more as if like this, the self-saboteur is like living permanently in your body and brain and stuff. That's how it can feel. And it's not fun. It's not funny. And this happens a lot on the twin flame journey, of course, because we're human beings that are twin flames at the deeper level of what we are. So we have everything that human beings have. We can even have mental health problems that can have all kinds of names in the scientific literature and in clinical practice as a result of all the things that we endured in many times earlier of our lives. And this has an immense, so just like trauma, I mean, like it, I don't know, different things can be going on, right? And this has an enormous impact on how you experience the journey and how you can like manifest the results of that. Because maybe it would be possible for you to connect yourself back to source, okay. But then when it starts to flow through you, something goes wrong because it goes a little bit like this and like this, instead of straight to the twin flame reality where you can start to build. And that just gives a whole bunch of problems that might very well be like the cause of like, oh, they ran away, or oh, I ran away, right? Which is often, of course, occurring at the same time in the same way, because, or in a different way, but the same core, because you are twin flames, right? That's what that is. That's what the twin flame is, which we can work with, not against. And we do that with the key tool for twin flame inner work. And that is actually still the same when you want to work with trauma. Because I have 3 steps for you to approach healing trauma on the twin flame journey, whether you are still on the way towards harmonious twin flame union, the consciousness state, or you're afterwards. I have 3 steps. And the first is always prioritize the key inner work. That may sound counterintuitive because you may say, well, but in our culture, we need to go to a psychologist, right? Isn't it? And I understand, but we're talking about the twin flame journey here, which happens on the soul level. So, it does heal you with the key tool on the soul level deeply. So you have to keep on prioritizing that part because it is the highest part of you, the deepest part, the soul part of you, that this journey even is about. You have to keep on prioritizing, putting that first, because that is also the level in you that can create the change, because it is the highest level of you that steers everything else. The soul level steers your psychological, mental, and body levels that are sort of underneath it. But the top layer is like, this is your twin flame journey, this is your union journey, this is your spiritual journey. And that's like above it, it's like a higher order, well, literally. So, and the solution for any problem in your psychology and mental, emotional, and physical is always in, well, not in the same layer, it's in the layer above it, where you alter something in, heal something in the fundamental layer, which is causative. And then you see that back into the physical, mental, emotional layer as something that changed there too. For instance, it can change trauma too. And that is absolutely true. I've seen it, I've experienced it. But you might say that it is just much more grave. It is much more harsh. It's much more dense, these issues with your mental, emotional, physical thing underneath your spiritual layer. When it is about trauma, it's just a much harder problem that has nestled itself into that layer somewhere or there or all places. It's just much harder, but it's still something that is actually steered by the spiritual layer that is above it. And that's how you should see it. My experience in the matter is that the only place where you truly and completely heal your trauma is on the twin flame journey, in the spiritual work, in the twin flame inner work with key, in other words. That is the place where you truly heal it, because you bring everything of yourself in the ultimate version. That is what the twin flame is. Twin flame means that's where you're related to the divine directly. So you also invite the divine healing. It also means that you'll be able to bring it on this other level so that you'll resolve the problem in a way that it is completely transformed, so that there's nothing left of the problem and things will return to their original order, so that it looks like and actually is in a manifested way as if it didn't happen in the first place. And that's what happened to me. It brings you back to your original blueprint, how you were meant to be in your body, mind, and emotions. And it brings you there in a way that, well, again, that it is not only as if, but it is truly in such a way that it didn't occur. It is brought back into its original space, into its original purity. And even your memories can be erased. Largely, I can still normally remember it, like normal people remember, like, oh, I want to remember that, and now I just can talk about it. But not in the memory is erased because it's largely not playing a role anymore. And all of that is truly possible in the twin flame journey. So congratulate yourself, not with the trauma, but with the fact that you are, with the trauma, have now entered the field in which there's twin flame healing, which means that you can completely resolve it, which is absolutely fantastic and a unique opportunity that exists nowhere else, no matter the healing modality that you like or what have you, that is somewhere else. It's absolutely amazing if you realize really what this means. But you have to surrender into it and let it truly happen. And that can sometimes be like an unpleasant period, because you will re-experience all the emotions that are suppressed before they forever leave you, to leave you in peace. But it's worth it. It's completely worth it, I can tell you that. Everything will be seen, and then it's done. You will get so many insights through it, through its surfacing, presenting itself to you. Before it leaves, you get insights, which is cool. And that refers a lot to psychology. And if you would want to, then you could go to a psychologist to talk about these insights that are happening and get even more insights about it, you know, be logic with it. You could read articles about it, scientific articles, for instance, that you find via the internet or something, or books that refer to what you're releasing now, and start to get an insight in. It can be very interesting, very insightful, very, yeah, like, oh, now I connect the dots, you know, with what happened in my childhood and how it played out in my young adulthood. And I understand now what I'm letting go of. But at the end of the day, in this sense, it also doesn't really matter. That's the strange thing of it. It doesn't really matter because you just let it go, which is a very interesting phenomenon as well. And that is the rule in a true spiritual twin flame healing journey that you're on. You will eventually get to the conclusion, the lift through conclusion. It's okay that you're not there yet, but it will happen. The lift through conclusion that a psychology, even not even trauma or the insights or whatever, but psychology stops existing. This is also why so-called twin flame teachers, quote unquote, on the internet that keep on talking about psychology are not true twin flame teachers. They're not that at all. They're just talkers on the internet. Because it stops being a point, psychology as a whole. Well, I know this goes very quickly. This just goes too quickly for you. I understand. Like, first we're talking about being deeply traumatized by childhood, and now we're like 2 minutes later and I'm just saying, well, psychology as a whole will disappear on your twin flame journey. And I understand that that goes far too quickly, but it is the truth, and I just wanted to tell you anyway. And yeah, it's very normal that there are a couple of years in between both points, and you can safely do that with the key inner work. And you can always, as an extra, like, get other experts in the field of mental, emotional, and physical as an extra, but keep the twin flame inner work as the guiding light. That's what you need to do, because that is how it truly works. 2, as an extra, you might want to get an understanding about the parts that have already healed. Yeah, we already talked about that, Petra. So again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's very healthy to want to understand when things are moving through you and out of you, to have an understanding about how everything is called and how everything works. And maybe you want to talk about that with a specialist in psychology. But it's not the thing itself. 3. There is a specialized key version waiting for you also. Yes, around 6 months ago or something, when we live now, when this video is made, so that's in November 2024. Around 6 months ago, I was initiated and giving green light from the Christ Masters to also use a certain channeled by me third version of the key tool, because I have talked about 2 versions, but this is a third version that only will keep in my place for now. And that is a specific version of it that helps you move through trauma. Trauma memories, trauma experiences, how they come up in you spontaneously in the now when we do the session and I ask you what comes forward to be treated right now. And yeah, I've seen that work, and your fear will go down quickly from this. Yeah, so if you feel like, oh, I need actually some extra things because of my trauma, because it greatly holds me back in my twin flame journey, then you can go for that specific, only at this moment only by me executed third version of the key tool under my guidance. And of course, like we've talked about, always do the key tool and keep on doing that, keep having that as your priority. That's always so, but of course I also advise you to take that under guidance also. And that would also be the way you get into connection with me, and we get to talk about that. The third version of the key tool for specifically for trauma could be helpful for you for the coming couple months, for instance, as well, because we already have a relationship, and then you can roll into that. That's how it works at this moment, if you think that is fit for you. Well, you can at any moment tell me that you think it's fit for you, but you'll have to come into the relationship anyway. And usually at this point, it follows from an existing relationship for one-on-one work that you already have with me. So yeah, we have a specialized key version for you for your trauma as well. And yeah, I hope all of that was some sort of insightful and helps you how I would see trauma on the twin flame journey and how you can move through that and what to expect from that. And I hope to see you also, except from in your trauma work, I hope to also see you next week to inspire you much more in the realm of love and all of the twin flame love. Also, the key tool is anchored into love. And next week on November 18, 2024, we start the love challenge of 5 days plus many bonuses. And I would love to experience that with you. And I'm very curious what you are going to experience next week. So go to the link that is below and put your name and email address in, and you're in. And I will see you next week inside the love game. Much love from Petra.